Hey, good morning, everybody. So Sif is asking how to shift a signal to the next bar in the same direction. Okay, I think I understand your question there, Sif. So I'll have to. All right, yeah, I think I can make something up here. Um, so I'm going to use the stochastics, and yeah, so I'm going to use a double stochastics crossover here. So what we'll do is we'll generate, right? I'll generate a long and short signal here when the stochastic crosses up above 20 and crosses down below 80, and I'll use those as my signals that I want to shift forward if we get a bar in the same direction. So alright, so let me just create some test signals here to work with, which will be this double stochastics crossover. And interesting, we're still on the ES, we're still bound up in this little wedge here. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so I've got the BloodHound interface open here. And let's give my BloodHound file a name here. Let's give this a name. So I will use last week's and just change the date on that file name. Alright. So this stochastics double crossover signals I'm going to build, I've done this before, probably a couple times in previous workshops. So I'm actually going to go through this kind of quickly because this isn't really the key. This isn't really a part of the question. I just need something to work with. So I'm just going to build this quickly here. So I'm going to use crossover solvers to do this. And let's see, what's my stochastics is a default settings here. Alright, default settings. That's good. And I'm looking for the stochastics to cross above the 20. So like so. Alright, there's my long signal. Shift that over. And alright, so I'm going to take a little shortcut, copy this solver here. And this one's going to be the stochastics crossing the 80 for a short. And I need to change my evaluate to the short only. Change my 20 to 80. And that should do it. So the next thing is put that new solver here on the board. And we connect it up, make sure it's working. Alright, there's my short signals there. Okay, and now since I had to use two solvers to create basically, one kind of crossover, we think of this crossovers as kind of like one condition in our mind, but to see both of those at the same time, I have to use an OR node, like so. Alright, so there we go. There's some signals to work with. Okay, so now I've got a long up here, and so now I actually want to get the signal here on the second bar in the same direction. So there's my initial signal. Let's see, so there's my initial short, and I actually want to get the actual signal on the second down bar, like so. So if we're looking for two bars in the same direction, that is what our bar direction solver will accomplish for us. So take the bar direction solver, and the number of bars that we want are 2 bars in a row. And there we go. So whenever we get more than 2 bars in a row, right, it gives us an output here. And if we look at BloodHound's output, right, we can see it kind of has this analog kind of look to it. So what that is telling us is, so if we look at this first up bar, BloodHound gives us a 0.5 output, and then when we get to the second up bar, it gives us a 1 output for a signal. And that's because our mode is set to percentage. So if I change this to 5 bars in a row, now you can see, if you look at BloodHound's output, all right, it goes from 0.2. So we're looking over here on the right edge of the chart. So it goes from 0.2 to 0.4 to 0.6 to 0.8. And the reason why we get a racing stripe is because our threshold level is at 0.8. So hopefully you guys can see that green line there. That's our threshold level. So as soon as BloodHound's output gets to that threshold level, it gives us a racing stripe for a signal. But anyways, so our fourth bar, our fourth up bar in a row gives us 0.8, and then our fifth up bar in a row gives us a value of 1. All right, and that's because we're looking for 5 bars in the same direction, and the mode is set to percentage, so you kind of get this analog kind of output as the bar direction solver is counting the number of bars in the same direction. So if you want a nicer, cleaner look, you can just set it to all or none, and that gives it kind of a digital look there. So anyways, we're only looking for 2 bars in the same direction, so let me set that back to 2. And let's go back to our long signal here. Alright, so we know that with the bar direction solver we have at least 2 bars in the same direction. And so now the next step, so this is the key to Asif's question. So we need to get the crossover signal shifted forward onto the next bar here. So that's really kind of the key to this. And to do that, we can just use the lookback node here. And the lookback node, it already has its displacement set to 1, and that's really what we want. We want a displacement value here set to 1. Our lookback only needs to be 1. All right. So in this case, the lookback only needs to be 1. But if we take a look at the lookback, so now you can see the signal is shifted 1 bar forward. And let's see, if I set my displacement to 5, we can see now that long shift signal was shifted forward 5 bars, right, way over here. So it was taken from where the dot is, where the green dot, that's where the original signal is, and it was shifted forward 5 bars. So this is the key here, is to use a displacement of 1 with our lookback. And now let me kind of rearrange my solvers here a little bit. So now we need an AND node. The last thing is an AND node. And I'll connect the original signals to the bar direction. So the bar direction is making sure that there's 2 bars in the same direction. Connect that up. And there we go. And I guess to kind of prove the point, actually I meant to connect it like that, but so I'm going to take a look at the original stochastic crossover signals and see if there's a place where our stochastic crossover signals would actually be invalidated by the 2 bars in a direction. So let me scan the chart here for a little bit. And yep, here we go. Perfect. Found one pretty easily. So right here, on a sec. Actually, I want to take a look at the original signal. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so that bar has the original signal. And we get 2 bars, yeah, 2 down bars. So actually that's not, that signal wouldn't disappear. Let me keep looking here. Ah, here we go. Yeah, I think this is 2 places. So this is actually an up bar on a, on a short down crossover signal there, and see, here's a long cross up signal, but the next bar is a down bar. So I think both of these, our signals should disappear here. So let's take a look. Yep, and there we go. So both of these signals were invalidated by making sure that there were 2 bars in the same direction, right, after the initial stochastic crossover. So, all right, so I think that does it for you, SIF. Okay, so Michael's asking, is there a way to output the BloodHound signals and associated information, for example, like the bar data, the open, high, low, close, to a text file for analysis? There isn't a way built into BloodHound. BloodHound's not designed for doing all that technical analysis. That kind of defeats the purpose of BloodHound. But you could write your own custom indicator or your own custom strategy that would use these logic templates, and then you could output your own data, whatever you want, right? So you can write your own custom code around BloodHound. So you can write your own custom strategy that would load up these logic templates, that we're building here, and so the strategy would have access to these signals coming out of BloodHound, and then you can do whatever you want. So if you want to do that, Michael, let's see. What we do is go to our website here, and if you go to support, and then we'll go to learn BloodHound, and you'll see on the right menu here there's documentation on various things. If we keep scrolling down, we have Raven down here at the bottom, and you can see down here the last few things, it says custom BloodHound strategy. So this is example for used in a strategy, but you would also use the same methods and calls in an indicator. But anyway, you could use an indicator to output your text file or a strategy, and this is the code here that you would use in your own custom programming. So you will have to agree to our terms here. So just so you know, we don't provide any support on this. The documentation on this page is the only support that's provided in writing your own custom code. And then if you go down to the bottom, there's 2 different download files down here. So that's an option there, Michael. And yeah, John's bringing up a good point here. If you do write your own custom stuff, please make sure you read all the documentation. So yeah, the documentation does actually state that you must, when you guys do this stuff, please read everything. There is a special note there that you will have to reinstall your BloodHound with developer extensions turned on. So Marcy wants to, how to prevent trade signals if price is like moving in towards, some kind of moving average that you have on the chart here. So maybe if I change this to something bigger, like a 55, and maybe I could find a better example. So yeah, There we go. So the question is, how do you prevent trade signals from happening if price is, like moving in towards your moving average? So we'll just use the red one as an example here. Right. So you've got your moving average is sloping down. Come on, trying to grab that button. There we go. So the moving average is sloping down, and essentially you've got price sloping up into the moving average, or basically against the moving average. And so how do you prevent any kind of long signals that may happen here in such a situation? So I can, let's see, I can do this with a couple of slope solvers. That's how I can accomplish this. So I'll build this real quick. And so this would be, just a kind of a filter, or kind of a filtering component to your system that you may want to add in. All right, so let me get the chart prepared. And let's get BloodHound open there. And hold on a sec, let me just rename that bar direction solver there. So now I know it's looking for 2 bars in a row. Alright, so let's create a new logic template. And let's see, so what to call this? Alright, so we're trying to block signals moving into a moving average. Or block signals, trading into a moving average, something like that. All right, so the first thing I want to know is, what's the slope of my moving average? That's the first thing I need to determine. So let me grab a slope solver down here. All right. And I'll connect it up. And so the slope we're using is an EMA 55. So I'll set my indicator to the EMA 55. Like so. All right, our plot is already selected, so that's good. Okay, and pretty simple. Right, simple enough. So when it's sloping up, we get long output, and when it's sloping down, we get a short output. So this output here from the slope of the EMA, as we can see, we're only getting a short output here. So this right here, this solver pretty much by itself would prevent any kind of long signal trade right there. Right, so if a long signal showed up, the slope of this EMA would would prevent a long signal from happening. So so let's find another example here. Trying to find another situation where there might be, a different kind of logic that you might need to use. You know what? Let me change my bar type. That'll probably help. So let's see. Let's go to a 5 range. I'm not seeing any good examples on my chart. All right. So let me add another moving average. All right. So maybe an SMA 100 might help. And so I'm going to create a SMA 100 slope solver here to help me kind of visualize this on the chart while I look for a good place. Well, I look for a point on the chart that kind of illustrates what I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay, great. Here we go. So, like, let's say this for example. Let's say that if you're below, some kind of moving average, you don't want to take a long trade if you're below a moving average like this, right? So maybe that's kind of your idea of not wanting to trade into a moving average. So if you're below here, you would only be interested in taking a short trade if you're below. But we can see that if we look at the slope of the moving average, this would only allow long trades here. And that's not quite what we'd want, right? So if price is above our moving average, then we're only interested in taking a long trade. And if price is below, we're only interested in taking a short trade. So that might be another kind of trade filter. That's kind of like along the same lines as the original question there. So if that's the case, what we would use is the comparison solver. So, all right, let me grab a dot here. So what we do is we compare the closing price to the moving average, right? We'd actually compare it. Oop, wrong line. Let's grab this line. There we go. So, well, actually, let me use something different. There we go. I'll use a diamond to represent that moving average. Right, so what we'd be doing is comparing the closing price to the price of the moving average and compare the closing price to the price of the moving average. So if price is below our moving average price, then we'll generate a short signal, and if price is above, then we'll generate a long signal. So we can just simply do that with a comparison solver. And so we'll be comparing the close price to the SMA 100 in this case. So I'm going to set indicator A to price, and we'll just leave it on the close price like that. And let me change my SMA to a 100. Oh, and connect that guy up like so. All right, and there we go. So here's kind of another trade filter. So now I can see we'd only be allowed short trades here as soon as price crossed below, and that kind of that kind of ignores the slope of the moving average in this case, but that might be your need. And so now the way you use these is you just use an AND node, and let's see, we need some kind of a signal here, and Let's see. Yeah, that's right. I'll use my double stochastic solvers here and just build some kind of a trade signal examples here. Alright, so this OR node kind of represents our trade signals, like so. And so here's a good example. So here's here's a short signal, but price is above our SMA 100 line there. So if we wanted to filter that out, we would take our filter, our solver here, our comparison solver that's going to act as a filter, right? So our comparison solver has a long output here, so there's no short output where the trade signal is. So let's see, I'll put a diamond there. So there's our short trade signal. And so now when we use an AND node to join these two together, right, it filters that short signal out there. And so this AND node is what you'd use to attach all your filters to kind of filter out, you know, the signals that you don't want. And so basically these guys, these slope solvers, act as trade filters. So let's see, let me find some other examples here. Alright. So here's another short signal there. And let's use our EMA 55, right? The slope of our EMA 55 as a filter here. So since the EMA 55 is sloping up, right? We got price coming down and it triggered a short signal. So if we use our EMA 55 slope solver, we can filter that out. So to give another example, I'll use an AND node. And right, and there we go. So now this short signal there got filtered out. Alright, so I think that kind of gives you an idea. You know, and of course you could even combine both filters here. So let's see, let's expand upon this here. So if we take a look at our SMA 100 slope, and then also take a look at if price is above or below, right? We could take both of these filters, join them together with an AND node, and so now we kind of created a unique trade filter. So basically right here where there's no output, right? There's no output. Basically that means no trade could take place, and that would be because our SMA 100 is sloping up, but price is below it. So this would mean no trades could take place, and no trades would be able to take place until our SMA starts sloping down and then price is below it. So there's kind of another way of building another type of filter there, so you're not trading into your moving average. And then we could take our signals, plug it into this AND node, and let's see. Yeah, so we would have a short from our stochastics there, and that's not showing up. Right, so here's another short from our stochastics. That's not showing up. Right, so we can see all of these short cross downs on our stochastics all got filtered out. So all right. And also, keep in mind as you're building stuff, it's good to label things so you know what is what. Like you can take these AND nodes and you can rename the AND node so you know what is this AND node actually providing. So I guess really what this AND node is providing is more of a filtered signals. That's really what this guy's doing. So it's taking our original trade signals, so I renamed this OR node to trade signals, and the AND nodes is filtering those trade signals. Alright, so Michael's asking, when you have two indicators, and so for example, an EMA 10 and an EMA 55, so if you have two indicators and they are converging or diverging, is there a way to generate a diverging, is there a way to basically detect if they're diverging or converging and use those as filters? And yes, there is. I've done a couple of workshops on that, and there's no direct way to do that in BloodHound yet. One simple thing that you can do, the simple way to do it is obviously if one indicator is, if one of your moving averages is sloping down and the other one is sloping up, then basically you'd get a short output from this red moving average, and you get a long output from the white one, and those would cancel each other using an AND node. If you looked at the slope of these moving averages and connected them to an AND node, they would cancel each other, which I can actually give you an example of. Alright, so we can see our EMA 55 here is sloping down. If I look at our SMA, right, our SMA here is sloping up. And if I connect both of these together in an AND node, take a look at that. Right, there we go. So there's a little blank spot here, so that would prevent any kind of trade signals from happening. That's kind of a simple way of doing it. There is a more complex way of doing that because, let's see, yeah, like right, all this area in here, right, both of our moving averages are sloping up, but they are converging. So technically those are converging as the distance between the two moving averages is getting narrower. So there is a way to do that, and I've done that in a couple of workshops here. So let's see. So Michael, let me find those for you. All right. So I have my web browser already on YouTube here. So if I type in BloodHound Workshop and see if I type in convergence. And here we go, BloodHound Workshop, detecting converging and diverging bands. So this workshop here will show you, how to set some solvers up, and basically it'll show you how to build the system. So I think in this example, let's see, let me take a look at the comments here. Yeah, so this example actually uses Bollinger Bands to determine if they're converging or diverging. So you could use the same solver setup and just replace whatever indicator you want, in this setup here. All right. Let's see, James so James is asking, the two small filters don't appear to be connected to the results. Let's see. Yeah, so James, I guess when you say small filters, I'm guessing that you mean the slope solvers here. So we can see both of these slope solvers are connected to this AND node. And then the AND node is connected to my result node. So what I'm looking at on the chart here is just, there we go. So what I see on the chart is just the result of the filters. So this is just the result of the filters here. All right, so when I look at this little blank area, this is the result of the filters, and this kind of tells me what trade signals would be allowed through. So if I see only a long output, that means only a long trade signal would be allowed through here. And if there's no output from BloodHound, like this black area, then that means no trade signals would be allowed through. But this AND node only has filters attached to it, right? It doesn't have any trade signals attached to it. So I have to take these trade signals here, and let me kind of reorganize this a little bit. So I'm only looking at filter right now. So if I wanted to actually filter trade signals, I need to take my, my solvers and the logic node that contains my trade signals and connect it up. And so there you go. So there would be an example of some trade signals getting filtered out. So once again, like right here, right, that would be a short and it got filtered out, and that would be a short and it got filtered out. And we can see various points here where there'd be other kind of short, signals from the stochastics there that got filtered out. All right, so I hope that helps, James. Let's see. All right, so Steph is asking or commenting, that looks like a great way to determine the trend. Can we then add a different panel to show when to enter? Let's see. So yeah, so we can use BloodHound in any way that you can kind of think of. Most people are interested in seeing just ultimately seeing trade signals. So that's usually what I end up focusing on, because that's the common question I get asked. But we can use BloodHound to show us several different things. So yeah, so let me add a second BloodHound onto my chart. Alright. So I have two BloodHounds on my chart, and I'm going to take this second BloodHound here. We can see the second one up here on the menu. The second one that I just added, it has an empty. It's empty, so I need to load a template into it. So what I can do, I can load today's template into it, like so, and I hit the refresh my chart after loading a new BloodHound file. And so this other BloodHound, I can, let's see, all right. I'm gonna have to rework my logic here. So let me. Okay, so I'm gonna put the first BloodHound. Yeah, sometimes it can get confusing to know which is which, but yeah. See, I think yeah. So the top BloodHound here is actually this button here. So you can see as I change the logic, we can see the signal here shifts. So I can set BloodHound to look at, you know, my shifted signal forward, and then I can set this other BloodHound here. Let's see. Yeah, so this blocks signals into my moving average is kind of the filters. So I'm gonna redo my logic here. So I'm going to rename my AND nodes here. Give me just a sec. Okay, so all of these AND nodes are actually filtered signals because I have the signals connected to each of those AND nodes. So I'm going to take a new AND node, and this new one down here is just going to show me the filters. So this one will just be a trend filter. All right, save that, and there we go. So now I've got one BloodHound down below. That's just kind of showing me a trend, some trend filters, you know, whatever you guys like for your trend filters. And then this other one above is actually kind of showing me the trade setup in a way. So that's a way that you could use BloodHound in different ways. And of course you can, like, I can go down here and I can change the colors. So instead of green, I know some people like to use blue for long. So let's see, how about if I use this cornflower blue, and I know red is usually pretty traditional, but just for the sake of a demonstration, I'll set it to orange. Let's see, where did orange go? There we go, dark orange. So by changing the colors, yeah, it makes it a little more visually understandable. You know that one of my BloodHounds is kind of showing me the trend, and the other one's showing me some trade setups or some signals. And let me scroll down, and there we go. So now we're in an orange state, telling me that, you know, my filters are telling me that, you know, that the trend is kind of down, and so therefore I should ignore this long signal here, like so. All right. So, and let's see. Steph wanted to look at the ES. Okay, there's the ES. All right, let's see. Any other questions, guys? And so, Asif would like to throw this into Raven. All right, yeah. You know, normally I won't do back testing, but since I'm not getting any questions in here, I'll do some back testing. All right, let's see. So let me get rid of this second BloodHound here. Alright, so let me open up my strategies window, and we'll put Raven on here. And then to set Raven up, I need to load up today's workshop template. like so. And it's always good to take a look at your logic here, you know, before you go and set it up. It's always good to, you know, take a look at it, make sure, you know, all the leaders are connected correctly, you know, because if I take a look at this other one here, right, I've just been kind of playing around, and, you know, who knows, I probably wouldn't want to trade this trend filtered and node, you know, so I wouldn't want to leave it connected like this. You know, I'd probably pick one of these other ones that actually have the trade signals connected into the AND node, right? So it's always good to take a look at, you know, look at your logic, make sure the leaders are good. But this is a SIFS question, so we'll switch it over to this logic template here. That looks good. And I'll set my entry logic to this shifted signal forward, and you know, we need to come up with some kind of profit and stop loss. Let's see, any ideas there, Sif? Let's see. So let me switch over to Steph. I guess you guys are always welcome to ask any question. If your question is kind of outside the bounds of this workshop, I'll let you know, and I just won't answer it. But just in general, I typically don't cover NinjaTrader support type questions. You know, I try and keep this workshop focused on learning BloodHound and learning Raven, and I don't offer any kind of trading advice. So those are the kind of the main questions I stick away from. Let's see. All right, so Sif is suggesting Lucky 7 and Lucky 7, and we'll just enable it. And let's see, I'll turn the exit on, close, I'll turn that off, and we'll see what we get. And let's see, there's only 5 days of data on my chart here, so take a look at the performance for 5 days of data. And you know, over 5 days of data, surprisingly, I guess that's not bad. I consider that kind of a neutral result. It's basically close to zero, considering how much, you know, the profit and loss. You know, we're only down 10%. Yeah, of the, you know, if you look at the total profit and loss, you know, we're basically at a neutral, even though it lost money, but that's kind of a neutral percentage, you know, in the bigger scheme of, you know, how much money it was making and losing. So only took 21 trades. Armando's asking if I could use the SuperTrend indicator as a filter. So yeah, let me add the SuperTrend into this filter here. All right, so I'm going to take Raven off the chart here, so I can see Raven's down below here. So before I do that, what I always like to do is, if you're going to take Raven off your chart, I always like to disable it first, close any positions out, and then at the same time bring up the control center and just hit flatten everything, and that goes and flattens Raven, you know, flattens any strategies that you have running. So it flattens Raven and it disables it as well. So, and let me just remove it off of here. Alright, so let's add the anaSuperTrend. Alright, I'm just going to use the default settings. So let's see, 3, 2.5, and 15. Alright. Okay, so there's the anaSuperTrend there on the chart. So this indicator seems to be pretty popular. So you can find this up on Big Mike's site. And I think up on Daniel's website as well. So let's see. Daniel's website, you don't have to pay to be a member. So let me bring up Daniel's website real quick here. There we go. So there's Daniel's website. It's trade-the-plan.com, and he's got a free download section there where you can grab all of those ANA indicators. So, okay, so we have the indicator on the chart, and let's build a solver for that. And I'm just going to make a yeah, I'll make a new logic template here. So actually, no, I changed my mind here. Let me just delete that, and I'm actually gonna so let's rename this logic template to there we go. We'll just call it signal filters. So now let's grab a comparison solver, and that's what we're going to use with the anaSuperTrend. So essentially what we're doing, let me make a couple of adjustments here. Okay. So what we're going to do is take the closing price and compare it to the anaSuperTrend indicator. And we'll see if the closing price is above it, or in this case, if the closing price is below it as a filter. Okay, let's get back to the logic board. Alright, so there's our comparison solver. Let's plug that in. Alright, let me name the solver here. Alright, so we're going to compare the close price to the SuperTrend. Like so. Alright, so once again I'm going to set indicator A to price, like so. And I'll set indicator B to the anaSuperTrend. There we go. And yeah, I'm just using the default settings here. And I know from playing around with this indicator that the stop dots and the stop line are the same thing. You can see how there's a line and a dot on top of each other. So that's how that's how this programmer was able to show this kind of unique line style with the dots and the lines. He just created two plots. That's what he did, and he set one of the plots to look like a dot style, and the other one's a line style. So both of these plots have to contain the same value. So you can use either one. It's not going to matter. So we also have this trend, Bull Series trend as well, and I'll show you how to use that in a moment. But for now, let's just look at the plot line here, and we'll take a look. So there we go. You'll notice that this particular indicator, that this is actually a good practice here, what Harry has done with this indicator, because you'll notice that let me scale this up a little bit. So you notice how basically the closing price, the arrow is on the closing price, but the plot is above it. So the plot, wasn't back painted in this instance. So Harry actually waited until the next bar to flip it up. So this indicator is written really well. I know there's another indicator out there where it actually back paints, and it's kind of problematic where this blue plot line is actually removed and then attached to the red line and shifted up. But this is actually a better way of doing it from a programming standpoint. And this is correct here. So price is actually below the blue line, which after this bar closes, that triggers the SiChameleon line to switch up to a down state, switch over to a down state. So there you go. There's that filter. Pretty simple. And of course, now you could take an AND node, connect your trade signals into it, connect your filter into it, and there's your signals, like so. Take a look at a couple of these here. Yeah, they don't look pretty good. At least not with these settings here. So alright, so I'll leave BloodHound on the SuperTrend with the comparison solver here. So you can take a look at that, Armando. Alright. Okay, so Steph is asking a question about let's see, you're making a headwind template. So Steph, I'm gonna have to assume you're talking about the support resistance solver, and she's getting okay, that's correct. And so yeah, so with the support resistance solver, it will give you a long and a short output at the same time, depending on what your support and resistance lines are. So the support resistance solver will never, well, actually no, I shouldn't say that. But I will say that the support resistance solver is not really designed to generate trade signals. It's more about filtering your trades based on where price is in comparison, to your support and resistance lines. So I'll show you why it's giving you a muddy kind of color. Basically, it's because when you mix green and red together, if you mix green and red paint, you get brown, and so that's what NinjaTrader does. Is it's mixing green and red together to generate brown. and I'll demonstrate that here in a moment. Okay, so let's drop a support resistance solver on here. And see, Steffi's using headwind, and she's using an indicator. And let's see, you said a 50 SMA. All right, well, I already have an EMA 55 on my chart, so let me use that. So that way I don't get too many lines on my chart. So an EMA 55 ought to be close enough. So let's change the indicator to an EMA 55. Alright, so and there was support resistance solver. I'm using an indicator, so I set this to true. And I changed the indicator to an EMA 55. That's what we're using. And and let me just rename this here. Okay. And I'm going to change my distance targets here. Take it off of ATR because ATRs are very hard to visualize on the chart. So I'll just set something easy to see on the chart. I'll set it to 10 ticks. And it looks like I must be missing something here. Oh, okay. There we go. I forgot. So, it's been a while since I've played with the support resistance solvers. Interesting, this solver has not gotten a lot of use lately. So, this support resistance solver is the one solver where you can see I didn't actually have anything checked. And that's because the support resistance solver is the only solver that allows you to check multiple plots, to use multiple plots as your supporting resistance. So let me give you an example here. So let's say if I'm using the pivots indicator, right? The pivots indicator has lots of pivot points, and the support resistance solver can use all of those plot lines. So you can see I used the select all, and it selected them all. So this is a unique solver here, allowing you to select multiple plots to use as your support resistance. So you know, and what that allows you to do, I can go in here and I can say, you know, I don't want to use the PP line here, but I want to use all the rest. And so you can just turn those off and turn all the rest on. Right? So something like that. So so what I had forgotten was that when I set my EMA, right, it defaulted to nothing being selected here. So I need to go in here and consciously select what the plot that I want to use. And there we go, presto. Okay, so now we have some results. All right, so for those who are new to the support resistance solver, right, I'm using the support resistance solver in Headwind. And so what Headwind is doing is, let's see, let me find a good, yeah, here's a good example here. So let's take a look at these bars here that I'm highlighting. And now let's take a look at the settings here. So I set my distances to 10 ticks, and we're using Headwind mode. So what that's doing is that's looking to see if price comes within 10 ticks of my EMA 55. Right? So we can see price is up, you know, when price is way up around here, it's more than 10 ticks away from my EMA 55, which is the red plot line. And so what the support resistance solver is telling me is that, you know, I'm far enough away from my, you know, red moving average that I can take a long or a short trade. I can take a long or a short trade, either way, because I'm far enough away from my support and resistance solver. But as price gets closer and closer, right, so as price gets closer and closer, eventually on this bar here, the closing price of this bar is now within 10 ticks of my moving average. So what's happening, what that means is that I'm too close to my moving average to take a short into the moving average. Right? I wouldn't want to take a short trade here because I'm right up against a support line. And if we look at the output from the support resistance solver, it's missing a short output. So since this short output's missing, that would prevent a long trade from happening, right? So remember, just as I had showed you back here on all these signal filters, right, we use an AND node in combination with our signals here. And actually, in fact, how about yeah, I'll take this solver here and I'll put it over in here with the signal filters. This kind of seems to be a day for focusing on signal filters. So let's take our EMA 55 support resistance solver here that's acting as a filter. And I need to grab another AND node. Oops. All right. Oh, perfect example. Okay. So we can see right here we actually have a short signal here, right, from our stochastics crossed down, and we got a short signal. However, price is too close to our EMA, right? So if we take a look at where price is, it's too close to our EMA, so we wouldn't want. So you may not want to take a trade, you know, into your moving average there, acting as support. So if we take our support resistance solver, connect it in as a filter, it filtered that trade out because price was too close. And so the way that worked is if we look at our support resistance solver, right, it's missing a short output. So this short signal was blocked because the support resistance solver was missing a short output. So when you combine the two into an AND node, you actually get no result, so no signal. So that's kind of a quick summary of how this support resistance is working in headwind. And so what Steph is talking about is that we can see when we get a long and a short output at the same time, we get this brown color. And that's what happens when you mix green and red, you get brown. So we can see that when there's no short signal over here, and we only have a long signal, then obviously you get just a nice clean green shaded background. So that's why you're getting brown. So basically the support resistance solver is saying, you can take a long and a short signal, either one, because price is far enough away from your support and resistance lines to take a trade. Okay, so that's one of the questions there. So Steph, there is no way to fix that because that's actually nothing needs to be fixed. Okay, yeah, so Steph, you would want to use the comparison solver for that. Yeah, so let's see. Alright, so let's make something up here. So, alright, so 10 ticks from the EMA 55, for example. Alright, let's grab the comparison solver. There we go. Alright, so let me explain this to everybody. So what Steph is looking for is let me clear all the little drawing objects. Actually, no, I don't want to clear them all. Alright, let me kind of use a little box here. Actually, maybe a line. Yeah, a line will work better, I guess. Alright, so this line is approximately, this line's approximately 10 ticks away from our EMA 55. So both of these white lines here. So maybe I should set them red. Okay, there we go. So what Steph is wanting to see is that if price is above our moving average, if it's 10 ticks or more above it, she'd like this to all be painted green. And if price is below the moving average, like down in this area, then she'd like to see the background be painted red. So we're going to use the comparison solver to do that. And alright, so an indicator A, let's put price in here. And indicator B, we'll change that to our EMA 55. Alright, and so we're going to set our large amount and small amount to 10 ticks. And there we go. Just like so. So we can see here, whenever price is within 10 ticks, there's no output there. So Alright, let me name this solver before I get going too far. Alright, so we're looking for the close to be 10 ticks from the EMA 55. So, like so. Alright, I'll leave it on that and let Steph take a look at that while I read some of these comments in here. Okay, so let's see, Steph would like to, I'll add some signals to this real quick. So once again, I'll just drop my stochastic example here on. Okay, so there you go. There's a quick example of something like that. And it doesn't look like I'm left with any signals. So I guess the stochastics doesn't really kind of match up with using the EMA 55 here. So I'm just going to scan through here. Alright, there we go. There's one signal got through. So it looks like price got moved away enough from our EMA 55 for a signal to pop through. So, okay. Alright, so we can't, if I understand the question right here, you can't actually have BloodHound shade your chart twice. So NinjaTrader only allows one indicator to shade the whole chart. So you can't get racing stripes to overlay on top of each other. So let me add BloodHound back on here actually. Before I do that, before you add another BloodHound onto your chart, let's see, it's good that you close all the BloodHound interfaces before you start adding another BloodHound to your chart. So let's see, let me connect this filter here. Let's see. Okay, so there's some filters. So I'll connect. Yeah, now I'll save it like that, close it like that, and now I'll add another BloodHound on the chart. And I'm going to load the BloodHound file at the same time that I'm actually adding it to the chart as well. So, alright, so that's what I want to see. I just want to see some filters on the chart. Sorry, let's do this. Yeah, we're just going to connect the EMA 55 filter. Yeah. Close that. Oh, hold on. You gotta keep in mind when you're opening up BloodHound inside of the indicators window or inside the strategies window, you have this OK button here, and they actually need to hit that OK button. So it's a little different. It's a little different from opening BloodHound from the chart. So let me go through and okay, so that's the filter we actually wanted to see on the chart. And this gets a little tricky here because I've got the same file open twice, but yeah, this is getting really messy. Let's see. Let's see. Actually, I just need to put I need to put BloodHound here on the right template. Oh, that's my support resistance solver. Actually, I need to add. Here's my comparison solver that I built for the closing price, close to my 10 ticks away from the EMA 55. That's actually what I want to look at. There we go. Okay, so there would be another example of kind of seeing your trend filter, right, painting the background of your chart, and then at the same time you would actually see your trade signals as well. So and keep in mind this actually what I'm looking at is a filtered trade signal, right? Because right here, right, I don't see this cross down on my stochastics. Right, it's been filtered out. So, but you know, this kind of shows that you can mix and match and use BloodHound in different ways here. So, all right. So Armando is asking, I would like to use the crossover of the ADXVMA with the Tilson T3 to filter the trend direction as well. Let's see. The Tilson T3. Armando, I don't think I have the Tilson T3. Let me see if Ninja comes with a T3. So let me get the ANA on the chart. And I'm going to have to start setting some of these other indicators, kind of fading them back in the background. And let's see. Well, I do have a T3, so hopefully this is close enough, Armando. All right. Let me change some plot colors around so we can actually see them. All right, so we got a lot of stuff going on the chart here, but hopefully you guys can see the thicker lines here. This is the ANA ADX, right? It goes from blue to yellow when it's flat, and it goes red when it's down sloping, and then this light green is the T3. So Armando would like to use the crossover of the ADXVMA and the T3. So, all right. So technically, this isn't a crossover. Technically speaking, a crossover only happens once. So if you want to use this as a filter, really what you're doing is you're doing a comparison to see if one's above or below. So you're doing above or below type of comparison is technically what you're really doing. You know, because a crossover, you know, only happened on this bar, and you know, so if you have a situation where something only happens once on one bar, that's not really a trend filter, right? Because that, so right, so our let's see, what would this be? Yeah, this would be a cross up on this bar, right? And this cross up only happened once on one bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare these two plots and see which one's above and which one's below, and that'll become our filter. Yeah, I'm gonna take that other bloodhound off the chart there, just because it gets too confusing and it's really just not a good way to work with bloodhound, especially if you got the same file open twice. Then it's really not a good idea to be having two bloodhounds on your chart with the same file open twice. So because you're going to be constantly overwriting each file and stuff. So all right, let's jump into the bloodhound. Let's get into our logic templates here, and let's go back to our signal filters. And we'll just add another one to the list. Watch this thing grow and grow. Alright, give me a moment here. I'm going to rename this and node here. Just trying to keep some consistency going. Alright, so Armando's question really is, we're really going to be doing kind of the same thing as we did with this comparison solver, except we're going to be comparing one indicator to another indicator here. So let me grab a new comparison solver, connect that up, and we'll compare the ADXVMA to the T3. So let's put the ADXVMA in indicator A. And yeah, I'm just going to use the ADXVMA plot. And next we'll put the T3 in indicator B. And I'm just using the default settings here. And let's take a look on the chart. I think that does it. Yep, there we go. So the way this is built is whenever the ADXVMA is below, then we get a short trend filter, and of course, let's use a green arrow here. Whenever the ADXVMA is above our T3, we get a long filter. So there we go. That's it, Armando. And if you actually want to see some filtered examples, I'll drop another AND node down here. Connect our signal in, connect our filter in. There we go. So there's some filtered signals now. So let's see. Yeah, it looks pretty good. We filtered out that long. Let's see. Yeah, that long got through. yeah, we got a couple more signals filtered here. So this short stochastic cross down got filtered out. All right. So okay, there you go, Armando. Let me pull this back up. Okay, so there's your comparison solver there. So Armando, you can take a look at that. And let me get back to the board here and look through all these comments and questions coming in. Iki, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Iki's asking, all right, so we have Chameleon. And with Chameleon has listed in it an SMA. And so the question is there an EMA or an HMA? And actually, no, there isn't. And there really isn't a need for an EMA or an HMA. So let me pull this up here. So if we go to our list of indicators, and if I scroll down to SiChameleon, so we can see some of these plots have the SMA label on them, right? So Iki's asking, is there an EMA or an HMA comparable? And no, there isn't. But what you can do instead is, if you want to feed the open price into an EMA or an HMA, I can show you how to do that here. So, I mean, hopefully you know how to do this on NinjaTrader on the chart. So if we go to the EMA, actually, let me remove that. And also, I'm going to remove Chameleon. I don't need Chameleon on the chart, but here's an EMA that's already on my chart, right? So hopefully you know that if you want to look at the EMA of the open price, you just go into the input series, like so, and then you could feed the open price into your EMA, and that would show you the EMA on your chart, right? So to do this same thing at BloodHound, that's what I'll show you next. Let's see, yeah, let me close that out. Okay. All right, so if we wanted to say, I mean, I'll just, a simple example. Let's look at the slope. Let's just look at the slope of the EMA here. All right, so we got an EMA. I'll just, once again, I'll do the EMA 55 of the open. So we'll take our indicator and we'll change it to the EMA. Alright, so we're going to go find the EMA, like so. So we have the EMA down here. And let's change it to the 55. And so next we want to feed the open price into the EMA. So we're going to go find SiChameleon. So there's Chameleon, and I'm going to use this nested input button. Click on that, and now we can see Chameleon is now nested inside the EMA. So Chameleon is now being fed into the EMA, and so I now need to select Chameleon and determine which plot from Chameleon do I want to feed into the EMA. And so in this case, I want to feed the open price. So I'm just going to feed the open price, like so, into the EMA. And then I just need to set my EMA period. And that's it. So now we're looking at the slope of the EMA 55 using the open price. And let's see, here's our EMA, and so this EMA on the chart is actually using the close price, but if we use the open or the close, you're going to get pretty similar results. But that's how you would do that, Icky. All right, so Icky would like the EMA to be running on the 15-minute time frame and then placed on like a 2-minute chart. All right, so so all you need to do for that is we can just take this solver, right, and I need to go back to my solver tab, and I'll create a 15-minute chart, and then I can take this EMA 55 using the open price and just move it down onto the 15-minute chart. So now this open price is coming from the 15-minute chart. So it's the 15-minute open price being fed into the EMA 55. All right. So now if I go back to my logic template, I can now see this slope solver is now on the 15-minute chart. So it has a little 15-minute text right above it. So now, let's see. All right, so when we look at our chart, right, when we look at BloodHound, it's now telling us we have to press F5 to update BloodHound, and so the reason why is because we just added another data series to the BloodHound indicator, and so to get this 15-minute information, we have to refresh the chart to get NinjaTrader to build that 15-minute data for us. So we'll refresh it like so, and let's see here. Looks like we might have run into this NinjaTrader bug. So let me see if I can get this to work here. All right, let me check the error logs. Yeah, shoot. All right, yep, so there is a little bug inside of NinjaTrader 7 where when you're taking indicators, feeding indicators into indicators into indicators, and you're trying to use other time frames, a time frame other than what your chart is set to, then every once in a while NinjaTrader doesn't handle that correctly. And I can see from this error message here that Ninja didn't handle it correctly. So for some reason it went from bar -1 and it jumped all the way to bar 700, and it skipped all the bars in between. So this is a little issue that we're hoping Ninja will fix. So let's see, let me refresh the chart. Sometimes all it takes is just to refresh the chart. And if that doesn't work, let me try and change the number of days. Yeah, still not working here. Let's see if I can find a workaround. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this solver, and then let's see. So I've got a copy of the solver, and I put one of the solvers on my 15-minute chart data, and the other one's on my default chart data. So let me put both of these solvers in here. Okay. So here's another roundabout way of doing this. And so this is subject to the same NinjaTrader issue, but what we can do is, right, I have Chameleon selected here, and inside Chameleon it has used this use alternate instrument or time frame. So I can set this to true, and we can see this new section here opens up and appears. And so I can set a 15-minute 15-minute chart data. So basically what that's doing is now Chameleon is actually loading up the 15-minute chart data inside of Chameleon. And let's see, I still have the open price selected, and we'll see if that works. So it doesn't appear to be working. So there's two ways of doing it. So in this solver up here, BloodHound's actually loading the 15-minute data, feeding it to Chameleon, and then Chameleon's feeding the open price to the EMA. In this solver down here, Chameleon is actually loading up the 15-minute data and trying to feed it to the EMA. And it doesn't look like either one is working today. Alright, I'm going to shut down Ninja and reload it, and hopefully that'll help. Alright, looks like it's working now. Just needed to restart Ninja. Let's see if both of these are working here. Yeah, I notice I'm getting a different result. Let's see, where was that? Yeah. Interesting. So right here, these couple of bars, I'm actually getting a different result. So I'm going to have to load up a 15-minute chart to find out which one works right. So I'm turning my global crosshairs on, and let's see. I need to put the EMA on this 15-minute chart. And let's see, at 55. And we're going to set it to the open price. Okay, yeah, so this is actually correct. Yeah, what I'm seeing here is actually correct. So I'm looking at the slope of the EMA on my 15-minute chart, and I can see right here there's one bar on the 15-minute chart where the EMA actually slopes down. Yeah, because we got that really long down bar right next to the really long up bar. And all right, so this one's actually working correctly. So let's open up BloodHound again, and all right. So it looks like the solver on the 15-minute chart. Let me just make sure I have things set up correctly here. Let's see, at 55, the open price. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at this, but I guess my assumption would be right now that because we're using Chameleon to feed the open price to the EMA, that for some reason we're not getting the 15-minute price data into Chameleon. Well, in any case, here is a solution that does look like it's working the correct way. So I have this solver. This solver is actually just on the default time frame. So if I look at my list of solvers, this is the solver, my EMA open, and it's on my default time frame. And what I'm doing is I'm using Chameleon. To load up the 15-minute data. So it's loading up the 15-minute open price. And the key to that was setting this use alternate instrument or time frame to true. So just be aware that Ninja has recognized that there is an issue that happens from time to time when you're doing this. So basically, it's when you're using an indicator such as Chameleon that can load up alternate or multiple time frames. So that's kind of where this little bug can pop up from time to time. So right. So you have a good Friday and have a good weekend, and I hope to see you guys next week. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.